So today I'm going to do a little segment I'm going to call Friday Fails. Seems to be a common thing, so I thought I'd jump on the train. So today I'm talking about Egress Windows. And what I did for today is I actually went on Marketplace and I found some contractors offering this service to others. So bear in mind, these aren't like things I found like fails online or whatever. These are just like local companies that are offering this service. And I'm going to point out some of the issues with what they're offering and why you should be concerned about it. So really quickly, with an egress window in Ontario, these are the requirements. So the diagram on the screen, you can see you need a clear opening. This is in metric, so I'll give you the imperial version. So you need a clear opening of 3.8 square feet, and no dimension of the window can be less than 15 inches. So from like side to side. So basically you need a nice clear opening for someone to be able to get out in the event of a fire, or for firefighters to get in. That's another purpose of the egress window. So clear opening. Next requirement, so if you have a window well, it needs to extend out 22 inches from the window, so that again, there's a nice clear path so that someone can come out of the window and get up and get to the ground. So this is an example of, this is actually a door. This is a lintel. So structurally, this is what you would want to see supporting brick, basically a steel angle that gets notched into the brick. So in order to put one of these in, you need to remove some brick. In this case, there's maybe a little more than you might need to remove. It just depends on the circumstances. But you can see we've removed a couple of courses of brick there to install a steel lintel in behind, and then you would reinstall the bricks above it. That supports the brick load above the new opening. And that's going to be important. You'll see why in a minute. So here's the first one. So this is a contractor that is advertising egress window installations in my area. Okay, so this is obviously an above grade window. You can kind of tell, so if you just look at the cuts, they've cut this in kind of crudely. You can see they've overcut it kind of in every corner. The cut's a bit rough on the bottom. Personally, I would have like just cut this whole course out on the bottom and put in some sort of a sill. The other thing that's kind of weird is this window looks like it's flush with the outside of the brick, but a window in a brick wall should sit inside the wood framing of the wall, not in the brick. You can see it does look like they've probably put a lintel in here, so you can kind of see it does look like a lintel, and you can see the bricks kind of poorly put back in there. But to be honest, it is a little tricky. As long as the lintel's in there, I'm not going to give them too hard of a time on that. But if you look around, you look a little more closely, you can also see like an inch of caulking all the way around. It's like a do your best and caulk the rest kind of situation. So they just rammed a bunch of caulking in there. So here's another one. This one actually looks pretty good in terms of at least the requirements. The works may be a little sloppy, but nice big window. That looks like it's probably big enough. Window well is out for far enough from the wall. One thing I don't see is a drain bottom of the window well, and I see this quite a lot. So basically at the bottom of the window well should be filled with gravel, and there should be a drain. So typically it's a perforated pipe that comes up and it goes all the way down to your weeping tile. The reason for that is if water comes along the ground or gets into that area, it's a low point, so it's going to want to fill with water, right? And you need a drain to take it away. So I don't see a drain. Maybe it's buried, who knows? Only other thing, so it definitely looks like they put a lintel in here. You can see the brick kind of chopped out here. Obviously the work's a little sloppy, but it isn't the easiest thing to put bricks back in. So again, I'm not going to give them too hard of a time on that. But here's another one. Again, like if you look closely, like this guy's got like an inch or more of caulking around this. The cut, definitely a little bit sloppy. Here's a more concerning part. So it looks to me, if you look closely, you can kind of see it looks like they cut the bottom of the brick a little bit here, but I don't see any evidence that they've removed any brick to put in a steel lintel. So something to actually support the brick above that window opening. So that is something I would definitely be worried about. Maybe it's hiding, but I don't know. Looking at this caulking, I'm guessing they're hiding some errors. Here's another one. Again, this one's pretty close. Does look like there's the right size window. Does look like there's a drain. Window well pretty far out, but my gosh, the way they put these bricks in, that definitely leaves something to be desired. There's like little pieces of brick. So obviously aesthetically, this isn't going to look very good, but structurally, hopefully at least they put the lintel in, the window's the right size. That's good. This is another one, actually nice, clean install. Everything looks really good with this. And you can't see all the details. Looks like they might have a fair bit of caulking around it, but it does look fairly tidy. Biggest concern here, I don't see any evidence that they've removed any bricks here above this. So I'm starting to wonder, like, are the bricks just being held up by the window? Because that's not going to work very well. Here's another one. And again, keep in mind, this guy was advertising Egress Windows. So it looks like he got the lintel right. I can see he's removed some bricks here to put the steel in. The window may or may not be big enough because when you open a slider window, the city will only look at the part that opens. It doesn't look at the whole thing. Even if you have the windows that kind of tilt in or whatever, if you've got to undo a bunch of switches, they tend to not like that. It's usually not acceptable. So questionable whether this window is even big enough. The other really obvious problem here, though, is this window well is only like 12 inches deep. So it's very close to the wall. That's not enough room for someone to get out. That would definitely fail inspection. Here's another one. So this is a slider window. This is a perfect example, again, advertised as an egress window. This is not big enough. So I don't know. I don't have another picture, but in this case, this pane here does tilt in like the one that you can see in the picture like this. So the opening could be wide enough, but you have to kind of mess with a bunch of little tabs to get those open. Too many movements. Although the code in Ontario doesn't explicitly limit that, that's generally not accepted. Another concerning thing, since we're looking at the inside here, there's some structural framing that you have to do when you put in a new window in a basement. And I don't see that they've opened anything up above here. So that's another thing that concerns me a little bit. So this one, again, just kind of like a sloppy install. That window definitely does not look to be big enough. It's a slider window. So when I open half of that opening is going to be pretty small. I'm willing to bet that that is not big enough. Caulking like crazy. They've put it below the brick line for whatever reason, but I don't see any evidence of a structural support there. So that's definitely something I'd be worried about. This one, again, nice clean install. No evidence that the bricks have been removed. Usually you can see it, right? Even like an experienced mason, it's going to look like a little wet. It's not going to blend right away. You can usually see some evidence that they've removed some brick to put in a structural support. So this one, again, just a sloppy installation overall. Does look like they've maybe removed some brick. It's very close to the ground. Usually you want the window to be at least 6 inches from the ground. Otherwise, it could get water ingress. Definitely looks like they've put like maybe some sort of trim piece along the top and like just a ton of caulking. Again, do your best, caulk the rest, I guess. Whew. So this one is like clearly really rough. So it looks like they really overcut the hole here. Really sloppy job on that cut. Kind of looks like they probably used the wrong saw. And it's very rough. And then you can see, look at that caulking. They've got like 2 inches or more of like what appears to be just caulking. Really sloppy, doesn't look good at all. Again, I'm thinking this window is not big enough to be an egress window. If you open that, I don't think that would be 15 inches wide. Might be tall enough, like the area might be big enough, but I don't love it. I'm not sure if that's a drain or not. For some reason, it's filled with gravel. Typically the drain, like we leave them open. I don't know why you would fill it with gravel. That's just going to limit the volume of water that can go in it. So that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I don't know if that's just something sitting on the ground, maybe. Window well looks big enough. So, hey, there's that. So this one, again, another above grade window. Just kind of crudely installed. I assume it's not quite finished here. It does look like they'd maybe put a lintel in. That lintel does need to extend 6 inches on each side of the window, though. So a little questionable there. I'm not sure if they went that far out. The other thing is this window, again, is sitting kind of in the brick. So it's like all the way out. When you put an above grade window in a brick wall, the window is supposed to actually sit in the wood framing of the wall. It's not typically installed on the brick because the brick is just a facade. There's a drainage plane behind that. It's kind of like just a siding material. So just again, like guys just don't know what they're doing here. Also, I typically put some sort of a sill on the bottom, and I'm guessing they did not do any kind of waterproofing or sealing that to the Tyvek, the house wrap, etc. So this one, again, like nice, clean little install. They've got a cover on it. The covers, you got to be careful with. They need to be easy to remove. You can have a cover, but it can't require any like tools to remove. But if you look carefully, so it looks like they've like cut halfway through the course of brick here. And I definitely don't see any evidence that there is a brick lintel. I don't know where it would be. Because if there was a brick lintel, it would be like extending into these bricks. So I don't think there's any kind of brick lintel there at all. That's something that I'd be a little worried about. Window looks nice though. Nice window unit. The trim around it, nice and clean. Look at that. So I don't know what happened here. It almost looks like they like overcut it, or maybe they did this on purpose. I don't really know, but definitely the masonry work leaves something to be desired. You can see the brick lintel here, so it is sticking out. Maybe that's 6 inches. Doesn't look like it's probably far enough just by eyeing it here. But it shouldn't be sticking out like that. So typically the steel angle is set back a little, and then you parge in front of it, or you use concrete basically in front of the steel to hide it. So definitely some like sloppy work. And then they've concrete around it. I'm not going to give them too much of a hard time around that. So yeah, that's basically all the pictures that I collected. There was a whole bunch of examples of like similar problems. The big thing is like these guys are offering this as a service to the public. You can clearly tell that a bunch of them are not getting this work inspected. They're just hacking these things into people's houses. So hopefully this is a bit of a word of caution. Be careful if you're doing something like this. If you're adding a window to your house, it is structural. You do need a brick lintel. There is wood framing, so you need a wood lintel inside as well, which I didn't show today, but that's another important part that's often missed. Basically, you have to make sure the framing is adequately supported. And in some cases, we saw like windows that were not even big enough for someone to get out, right? So you're, trying to make a bedroom legal in your basement. You're adding an egress window somewhere in that basement. And, they go and put a window in that's not even legal. So I'd be really worried about that. So be careful, make sure you do your research. There is some reputable contractors who are doing it right. Definitely a job that I would insist on getting a permit for, just to make sure that they are doing all of these things correctly. But hopefully that's a bit of a, word to the wise. Have a great weekend.